Yesterday we touched a little bit upon the law of karma in couple of pages in this canto. And just to touch upon the essential points very briefly, the first thing is what Sri Aurobindo reveals to us is that karma is not a law of reward and punishment. This is reward and punishment, good and bad, is purely human constructions. They are the reactions of the ego to something it doesn't understand. It is an evolutionary mechanism inbuilt in life. So karma and the law of karma is about learning and moving, learning and progressing. And Sri Aurobindo says that when the soul starts its career, what is its karma? So normally it is said that soul is bound to cycle of birth and death because of karma. But when it starts its journey, where is the karma? Now, when it starts its journey, there is a little seed of the divine within it, which already contains, as Sri Aurobindo says in another magnificent line in Savitri, in the beginning is prepared the close. Queen will reveal this through the mouth of the Queen, that in the beginning, right from the moment the soul starts the career, the idea force that it will one day embody the will of the divine is already there ingrained in it, and it will lead it through everything. So for a long time, it moves through the gusts and blows and flows of nature. And we feel it's a free will choice, but actually it is nature which is moving us. And through that process, nature plays as with a seeming puppet. Sri Aurobindo puts that line, puppet of its hours. And it looks at what kind of things are happening and why nature is doing this, why nature is doing that. But there is a deep wisdom which operates. And the soul within, as Sri Aurobindo says, drinks experience like a strengthening wine. So we use the word it is good, bad, but the soul drinks all these experiences and grows. Now nature, the only thing is that nature always lives in a sense of eternity. So it is in no hurry. It says, okay, 100 lives, it will develop. And each soul will move along different lines of experiences to touch its own eventual destiny. So there is the future which is pushing it from behind, but depending on the choices, seeming choices, initially it is nature which makes the choices, it is led along this line, that line, and just like the soul, just like in nature, there is infinite variation. No two leaves are alike. Therefore, no two journeys are alike. And that's why in this yoga particularly, and in any authentic path, there can be no other guide except the Lord and Mother. Very often people do this mistake of making another human being a guru or guide, but it's absurd because each one will look at that journey from his or her angle of vision, because that's his journey, but that cannot be somebody else's journey. So to try to change or want somebody else to follow the same curve that one has followed will be an artificial journey. It's like trimming a flower. So each journey is unique, and that makes it really very fascinating on a vast scale. But as the journey proceeds and around this nucleus of the soul, something like a crystallized psychic personality begins to form. More and more players enter into the field. So initially it's like journey taking place at an ordinary pitch, at the normal average pitch, and the players which are in the field are cosmic powers, but they are very, very delicate powers which are molding. But as the psychic grows more and more through lives after lives, moving nearer and nearer its goal, greater and greater cosmic powers come into play. Sri Aurobindo, in Ashupati's life, again another beautiful line, he says, the titans and the gods battled for his soul as for a costly prize. This happens beyond a point, so the difficulties become tremendous. The possibilities are enormous. But again, nothing to worry. Sri Aurobindo always gives us full of hope. Nothing to fear. Through all, again another line from Savitri, through all, the mysterious march goes on. Through everything. If one moves along this line, the divine will open another kind of pathway towards progress, which will be through different kind of experiences. If one moves along this line, again, through different kinds of experiences, again moving towards that goal. What those experiences will be, we cannot fathom. once when there was a queue to have darshan of the mother, and someone had just got married, and mother suddenly asked that couple to wait, whereas others she kept on giving the flower, and these people kept waiting for about half an hour. Then mother, after everybody had gone, she asked them to come and again gave them a flower and asked them to go away. So Champaklalji asked, Mother, I don't understand. He thought she will give them some updesh, jnana, something about, how to lead a married life, or maybe scold them, what nonsense, you have spoilt my work, nothing. So she said, no. It's like initially I had given him certain things for his journey along a certain line. Now he has chosen to grow through another line. So I have to take those things back and give him other things which are necessary for growth. How the divine puts. Absolutely that seeming freedom. And when Sri Aurobindo was asked, why this freedom? He says, because without freedom, nothing is authentic. When something happens out of freedom and the soul accepts, then the change is authentic. Otherwise, it's something artificial, imposed from outside, and the divine doesn't want that. So whether we like it or not, that's the play. And in this play, the beauty is that we are neither being judged, nor we are being punished, nor rewarded, but we are moving through everything. Can we imagine divine himself going through experiences? Yesterday or day before, we were talking about some of mother's experiences. As a young girl being strangled by her own father and thrown into the canal. We don't even know the name of who she was. Often this idea that everybody, all mother says, she laughs actually. People always, when they talk about past life, they believe always with saints that they were always great, hallowed people. She says it's not true. Because you have to go through every experience of life. What would have been that experience of love, where it is cut short by death? Actually, if you look at it, it's a life which could be a excellent preparation for, in a future, for love to blossom to its fullness, because it's cut short. Here is a woman who is, nobody knows, history doesn't record it. And she is willing to sacrifice her own life, defying her own father, for the sake of the person whom she loves. And she is killed. What a destiny. As Joan of Arc, she is burnt at the stake at 19. Where was God? She was hearing God's visions. She was seeing God, and he was hearing his voice, and he was guiding her. And yet a life at 19 cut short. Somebody else would say, oh, what a bad thing. Why didn't God save her? So these are all human notions born out of ignorance. But as Sri Aurobindo said, what if failure suits his purpose best? Why shouldn't God accept failure if failure suits his purpose best? So success, failure, good and bad, all these are human notions. The only thing which is not human and which is very important to remember is true and false. Every movement can be a true movement and a beautiful movement, or it can be a false movement. That's where the discrimination lies. Otherwise, all other things are creations of the mind, which are all right, necessary for the journey in ignorance. Now we have heard that Savitri's motion is not new. Several lives she has tried it. The same work, and some of the lives we spoke about. And of course we know also as Agastyan, Lopamudra, same task again, both of them were engaged in, to uncover the subconscious, to gain victory over the subconscious. And lives after lives they are doing. That's why Sri Aurobindo writes in one of his poems, I think it's the God's Labor, through vistas of fruitless lives. How they have labored and labored. And that's why if one has to participate in the divine work, some of the fundamental requirements is equanimity, renunciation of fruits, etc. Otherwise, after a few years, one will feel, oh, is it, what have I chosen? Maybe there are some very quick nirvanic paths which give me nice experiences within a short period of time. So it's not about experiences, it's about a whole radical change in earth nature, carrying on the evolutions. Sri Aurobindo's own lives were very, very different kind, from Socrates to Leonardo da Vinci. Amazing lives where essentially it was the evolutionary journey in which he was participating. And this is important because when we come later on, the choice of the right instrument which the mother wants for a work. We will see this. So, this was what we read yesterday. This part will be discussed at great length later on in book 6. And then about the journey through various tracts, through cities and marts and to small hamlets, to temples and mornings and nights and noons, glowing noons and afternoons. What beautiful description of nature. Savitri's chariot is going just like the chariot of Jagannath coming out. So every day people visit and bow down. But one day Jagannath decides, I'll come out and choose my instruments. Of course, most of the people are lying down and wanting their own good. Some are dancing feverishly. Some believe that we are special, being very close to the chariot. Jagannath looks at all this but doesn't bother about all this. But maybe far away in a small little hamlet, there is a heart of a devotee who says, oh, I could not participate in the Rath Yatra and I don't even have a television. But Lord, you are moving through the streets. Please, just use me for yourself in whatever way. And that he notices. The mother was very fond of this story. She was very moved by this story which she heard while in Paris about India. And that was one of her first contact with India, and it really made her feel that there is an outward consciousness, that there is a land where people have such values. And what was the story? It was the story of the perfect gift, where Shiva in disguise as a mendicant comes to a poor woman's house and asks for alms. Imagine God asking for alms. And this is his old technique. So, depending on what we give. So, this lady tells him that, look, I have no fire to warm you, no cot to offer you, but I have this half a mango. I have eaten half, only half is left. This I can give you. And suddenly, all the glory of Shiva enters into her. And the mother later recounts this story. It's the story of the perfect gift. It is not about how much you give, but it's about the quality of the gift. Of course, he says if you have more and you give more, it's wonderful for the divine work. But this perfect gift touched her, that here is a land which nourishes and nurtures such values and not those typical corporate values of how much I can earn. And that was one of her first, perhaps the first one, if I remember right, contact with what really India is. So, her journey is taking her through distant lands in search of that instrument. And we stopped with, on page 380, the quieted, all-seeking mind could feel, at rest from its blind outwardness of will, the unwearied clasp of her mute, patient love. This is the love of Mother Earth. How patiently she bears all her children, gives to everyone a place. Not only to the seers and saints, even to the snake and bichu she gives a place. Only the problem is when people start changing places. So when human beings move into the territory of dogs, they get bitten. Now we have taken away, so poor dogs have no place, so they are on the pavement. Or when snakes come out and move into human territory, there is a problem. As long as each one is in his own place, wonderful. And everybody feels the love of the Mother Earth. Really, if we feel from that point of view, when we lie down on just this earth and feel how bones, blood, everything is formed out of her, how she has shaped us patiently. The spirit stumbling in the fields of sense, this creature bruised in the mortar of the days, could find in her broad spaces of release. The spirit stumbling in the fields of sense. Entire world at one perspective is a field of sense. And it's like a minefield. We don't know. Something may look very attractive but may be very dangerous. Some like, fruits. Some fruits which are poisonous. Something which may not look attractive may be very beautiful. We don't know. So it's the field of sense and the spirit is stumbling through that. And through that stumble, it grows in self-knowledge. That's the beauty, the way the world is organized, because nature is nothing but a front of God. It's a mask of God. So the spirit stumbling in the fields of sense. And then this creature bruised in the mortar of the days. Elsewhere, Sri Aurobindo describes us, this creature, as creature born to bend beneath the yoke, a plaything and a chattel of time's lots. This is how for a long time our journey is. Mortar of the days. Literally, if in Hindi there is a saying, Okhli mein sar dena. So we are all in the Okhli. Only thing is we should not forget that while the crushing part is nature, but hand is ultimately the divine. As Kabir has put so beautifully, Guru Kumhar Shish Kumbh hai, फिर मारे चोट, अंतर हाथ सहार दे, बाहर मारे चोट. Guru is like the potter and the shish is like the clay. And what the Guru does? Supports from inside and hits from outside. Because then only it can be shaped. If he only hits, it will all get finished. And if he only supports from inside, nothing will be shaped. So he hits from outside, supporting from inside. So this creature, mortar, literally Sri Aurobindo is describing our real state. But still we have a place where we can go and feel release. And that place is the first ashram of the Lord. And that ashram is before human beings came upon earth. It's not the psychiatrist's dispensary, which of course fills us with all kinds of weird ideas about ourselves, but it is where divine is present in his first pristine purity and its nature. So if we go into nature, we can rejuvenate ourselves. That's the solution Mother gave. That if you are tired, if you are depressed, look at a flower. Or sit by the side of a tree. How she felt the rush of the cherry blossom tree. And immediately one feels. Or look at something vast, the ocean or the star-studded sky, if we can find one nowadays. But still, these are natural rejuvenators because the divine in his Sharobhav can easily be contacted because human mind is not there to contaminate it. It's a very simple remedy. We don't dispense it in the dispensary, by the way. Don't expect that if somebody comes, we will say, okay, you take this flower and go back, look at it, and you'll be all right. Another remedy, she said, look at fish, small aquarium. It says, if you look at it, after a while, you'll suddenly feel your mind is becoming quiet. Simple remedies, but we want complicated remedies. That's the human mind. Could find in her broad spaces of release. Widening is the solution to many problems, and nature helps us to widen. Not yet was a world all occupied by care. Why? Because human intervention was not there. There were no cares, anxieties, fears, hopes, desires, all that humanity brings. The bosom of our mother kept for us still her austere regions and amusing depths. Her impersonal reaches, lonely and inspired, and the mightinesses of her rapture haunts. Muse-lipped, she nursed her symbol mysteries and guarded for her pure-eyed sacraments the valley clefts between her breasts of joy. So this experience is amazing. Actually, I remember once in Air Force taking on my commanding officer because he had done something which he shouldn't have done, and one Jawan died because of his total, absolutely couldn't care less attitude. And so I shot a letter in the rush of youth that look, you should investigate this matter, this is not fair. And instead of punishing him, they promoted him to Air Headquarters, and he was there and he punished me by sending me to Siachen. But it was so beautiful. I still remember when I read these lines, those wonder clefts and total loneliness, miles and miles one can walk with not a soul around. First 3-4 days it's terrible because of the mountain sickness, and then it's such a joy, because there's no very little of human intervention. In spite of all this shelling and all which happens occasionally, there's such a joy there. So here we too can go there. Of course, Siachen one cannot go just like that. So I always used to say that this is a very great reward that I have been given. And the whole synthesis I read there because there was nothing else to do. And I said, this is the best reward that somebody could give me. I couldn't have paid money and gone there. So government sent me on its expenditure. It paid me TADA and no work in that wonderful place. So it's really God's grace. So how good comes out of evil. This was a experience. Sri Aurobindo says that incidentally to Mrinalini Devi in one of the letters. This again interesting about the karmic law. He says, in this world, very often good comes out of evil. Now, if we look outwardly, we will say, oh, Mrinalini Devi, what a difficult life she had, what a miserable life she had. Some people think about that look, she hardly had a married life, if one can really say so. Hardly a life of togetherness. But if we were to ask Mrinalini Devi today, that would you choose this life again? My feeling is she will say 10,000 times with this person. Who would not want to be with someone like Sri Aurobindo in whatever way associated with his love, his compassion? Who can imagine? So on outside, difficulties, trouble. And one would wonder, Sri Aurobindo's wife, why she had to suffer so much? One would say precisely because she is Sri Aurobindo's wife. She doesn't need anything. Just it is enough to have received a little drop of the Lord's love. So here we have those pure things. Her mountain altars, now look here how the Lord sees. Her mountain altars for the fires of dawn. First yagna, the Lord performed. The sun lights up, and this we will see in other cantos to follow. On the mountains are like altars, and as the sun falls, like Kanchenjunga lit up by the sun in the morning, and one sees like a little fire, flame. And nuptial beaches where the ocean coused, and the huge chanting of her prophet woods when winds flow through the pine trees or some of these trees, the chanting of the winds. So who says that mantras are only in Sanskrit or in any human language? The first mantras were uttered in nature's dumb bosom, and she expressed it through the joy, through the rustling of the winds, through the flow of the streams. And all this is nothing but the mantra of the Lord. Chanting of her prophet woods, fields had she of her solitary mirth. Plains hushed and happy in the embrace of light. They want nothing else. Alone with the cry of birds and hue of flowers, and wildernesses of wonder lit by her moons, and grey, seer evenings kindling with the stars. What would be that experience that all nature is musing upon the Lord? This is how the Lord has experienced nature, that there is in it an aspiration rising up. As she has said that every evening one can feel that hush, evenings and mornings. And in Indian thought it is said that is the time when Shiva goes around the world. So there is a stillness, and in that stillness nature aspires towards the Lord. But we are of course busy with many things. And grey, seer evenings kindling with the stars, and dim movement in the night's infinitude. How beautifully night, pregnant with possibilities. That's how he sees night. Whether it be the psychological night or it be the physical night, pregnant with possibilities. Night's infinitude. Things totally new may come the next day. And it happens. How the night wipes away things, and in the morning we are born afresh, sometimes new thoughts, new resolutions, new aspirations. That's where the bosom of the night contains within it these possibilities. august, exulting in her Maker's eye. She felt her nearness to him in earth's breast, conversed still with the light behind the veil, still communed with eternities beyond. This is the effect of the mountains. There is this lovely place, Ramgarh, near Nainital, and when that place, Tapogiri, it was offered to Sri Aurobindo, that piece of land. Sri Aurobindo seems to have remarked, I read it in Shabda's newsletter, it must be true, it's not there anywhere in writing, that it is our foothold in the Himalayas. And then when people went there, they used to feel a lot of joy. I myself experienced just sitting in Tapogiri so much of joy and a lot of love of a very different quality. So someone asked the mother, she said, it is the valley of divine love. So naturally there will be joy in it. Now, what is interesting is, mother was not told anything physically, but actually in that valley where a river has dried up, there are a lot of divine love trees. It's amazing. And it's a strange vibration one gets just sitting there. So, Savitri, in her journey, she had left behind the cities and the hamlets. She is sitting in some such spots and communing with him who is hidden in the heart of nature and rejoicing and taking delight. She is not in a hurry, it seems, that I must find immediately. She is fully enjoying the presence of the Lord. And now, something very interesting. A few and fit inhabitants she called. So, this is the quest of Savitri. She is calling, but she is going to choose one. This reminds us of the biblical saying, many are called, but few are chosen. So she is calling, few and fit, who is ready to come to her, to share the glad communion of her peace, the breath, the summit where their natural home. Communion of her peace. Once in one of our conversations, a disciple or a child asked mother, Mother, since we have no question to ask, why don't you tell us something? Typical child. Mother, you tell us. Mother says, my child, the best gifts are given in silence. And then there is quiet meditation. The best gifts are given in silence. So she calls them for what? To share the communion of her peace. Now we have a whole description of the past lines of spiritual evolution. And she will call them because they also have to undergo the further change, but they are not the real instruments for the change. And we have the past achievements of humanity, and Sri Aurobindo at one place says, in fact quite a few places, the seer, the saint, the sage, something to this effect. They were past achievements, or the hero martyr, they were the past achievements of human spiritual evolution. But that is not enough. What he wants to create is something very different. Our object is not to become a saint, a rishi, a yogi, a sannyasi or a tapasvi, but to live in the divine consciousness. There is no name for this yet. And it's good we don't have a name. Otherwise we'll immediately put a label and put a form attached to it and say, oh, this person is living in the divine consciousness, this person is not. Or perhaps more commonly, I am living in the divine consciousness, nobody else is. So thankfully there is no name, but in the past we had names of those who had gone beyond the human frame. And what were those efforts? What they were like? These strong king sages from their labor done, Raj Rishis, as they were called, and they were the ones who were kings. They battled and labored and ruled, and yet they were seers and sages. They had achieved self-realization and inner knowledge. And the most prominent lineage in them was Janak. Sri Aurobindo remarks this in one of his aphorisms. Very often people say there is one Janak. No, it was a lineage of kings. And that's how the Ramayana describes that Janak was not one king, but a lineage of kings who had arrived at self-realization, and yet they were engaged in governing kingdom, ruling, battling, war, everything. They were not surely having only a white beard or grey beard or whatever beard, but probably looked like a warrior with togas battling on the horse or chariots, and yet they were realized beings. What a great thought there was in India in those days. But nowadays, our idea of all kinds of seers are those who renounce the world and get attached to money in the Swiss bank. So they sit on nice high pedestals with lot of mala in their, I God knows how their neck, they'll have spondylosis. Sometimes I seriously worry because how to bear all that burden. And same standard cliches from the pulpits, they will say. Same standard things. And all that they are looking for is after that, and they will keep singing glory of their guru. Of guru, not their guru. Of guru. Everything is only look after the guru. Mother remarks this in one of her places, that there are a lot of people like that who say this only so that people will worship them. So they put this that, everything is only about Guru Mahima, and at the end of the day, I am your Guru. So basically, instead of saying, you look after me, they do it in a very roundabout way. But they are not these sages and seers. It is by an inner realization. So these king sages labored and toiled. Look at these lines. The strong king sages from their labor done, freed from the warrior tension of their task, they went to battle and conquer, came to her serene sessions in these wilds. The strife was over, the respite lay in front. So they would come from time to time, they came to her and sat near, just being in that peace. And these were the king sages. There is a story about King Janak, many stories, but one of them is his guru was Yagnavalk, and he would go to him, and when once he came and somebody came and said, there is fire in Mithila, he says, don't worry, Mithila may burn, but I am not going to move from here. I am right now with my master. And in fact, when I read that story, I was reminded of Durai Swami Iyer. And every Saturday, Sunday, he would come here, it seems. He was a well-known advocate in Chennai. And if he would get a message that, there is a case or something like that, something urgent, he once told back that, tell them Durai Swami Iyer is dead. Next 2 days, he is dead. After 2 days, he will go back, I am alive again. So, these were the seers and sages and how they would have lived. Happy they lived with birds and beasts and flowers and sunlight and the rustle of the leaves, and heard the wild winds wandering in the night, much like the Pandavas who from time to time will go to the forest, but were sages and seers in their own right. Mused with the stars in their mute constant ranks, and lost in the mornings as in azure tents, and with the glory of the noons were one. So nowadays it has come, these our political leaders who are supposed to be the rulers and governors, they have nowadays Atma Manthan Shivirs. At least they have used the word correctly for a change. But it's all about why we lost, how we can win. And I have a very small suggestion that all these people should, once in a year, should be forcibly sent to some ashram and told to live good ashram, told to live under its discipline, or sent into just some quiet place, and they should just read the Gita or read some such thing for 1 week and then go back. It will have a much better effect rather than anything else. So these people, after their warrior tension would go, these Rajrishis, and they would go and breathe that delight, be with the company of bird and beast and flowers, and live there in peace, and then come back for the war. Then of course we also have the thing about Brahma Rishi. So these were the steps. Incidentally, it's very interesting that if we look at Indian thought, the only Brahma Rishi from the human point of view who has climbed documented, of course, there would be many subsequently, is Vishwamitra. All other Brahma Rishis were supposed to be Manas Putra of Brahma, including Vasisht. So they are mental childs of God Brahma. But Vasisht, Rajrishi, and then he goes through all his human journey and eventually reaches that status. But you have to go through this path. This is what it implies, as Sri Aurobindo says in another place in Savitri. After we have served this great divided world, God's bliss and oneness are our inborn right. Nobody can cut short that journey and believe that just because I have cut myself from the world, I will realize the self. No. Because the world is inside, it's not outside. He will be bound by the thoughts, the feelings, the same thing. So those who believe that by cutting off from world, they can really realize the self, it's an impossibility. We have to go through a process of karma through evolution by doing nishkam karma, dedicated karma, by becoming more and more selfless, unegoistic. All these are necessary before one is ready for this, some deeper plunged from life's external clasp. Beckoned into a fiery privacy, in the soul's unprofaned star-white recess, they sojourned with an ever-living bliss. What a beautiful line. The soul's unprofaned star-white recess. Nothing can stain the soul. So mother used to say, this idea, wicked soul, bad soul. Somebody said, mother, he is a wicked soul. Mother shouted at him, what do you know about somebody's soul? There is nothing like a wicked soul. Because all souls are beautiful souls. In spite of whatever karma. And we have this lovely line in Kathopanishad describing the soul. Suryo yatha sarvalokasya chakshu nalipyate chakshushe bahya dosha. Eko vashi sarva antaratma nalipyate lok dukkhen bahya. These things belong to the outside nature. The soul is ever unstained, pure. It grows through everything. So here we have in Sri Aurobindo ke andaj mein, in the soul's unprofaned, star-white recess, they sojourned with an everlasting bliss. A voice profound in the ecstasy and the hush, they heard, beheld an all-revealing light. All time-made difference they overcame. What is the sign of these seers? Again, Arjuna has asked Shri Krishna, how do we know such a Brahma Rishi? What caste does he belong to? What is his dress? How does he speak? What is his language? Krishna gives all inner answers, no external answer. Here again we have inner answers. All time-made difference they overcame. They don't live in a sense of division, of big and small and high and low. The world was fibered with their own heartstrings. There's a poem of Sri Aurobindo, Light. That's why I often say he was a born Brahma Rishi at one level. At 11 years he writes that I woke up and wove a vest for the sun. He wove it. How does one weave? In one of his meditations in the Upanishad, Sri Aurobindo says that how the Lord has woven this necklace for himself. What is that necklace? It is the Akash Ganga. He is referring to that. Put everything in its place, not by hands, but by that silent yoga. So it is the power of yoga by which he has woven this necklace for himself. He is the necklace in the Lord's. So even when we cannot see him, well, in a certain sense we can see him every day. This cosmos is himself, only in his outer body. So the world was fibered with their own heartstrings. When they realized this identity, they found that it is they who have done this. And this is what Sri Aurobindo says in that Upanishads, Ishavasya Upanishad. He says, it is you who have set the stars into motion. It is you at whose beckon these things move in space. And how have you done it? By that impersonal will. So he asks us to identify with that. So these seers have identified with that will and know it is they who have woven everything and put it in place. Close drawn to the heart that beats in every breast. So they had realized that heart which beats in every heart. In one of the places, Mother says beautifully, it's in volume 10, Thoughts and Aphorism, where several places she has given a new angle to understanding of the avatar and the real masters. So in that she says that I can understand why someone who has identified his heart with the universal will, why when people approach that person, through him the divine can pour whatever has to come down. So, we have this thing about the real masters, because their heart is identified with the divine. So that person can become a channel and a representative. So here their heart has become close drawn to the heart that beats in every breast. It's no more only beating in one heart, in a small frame, but it has started beating in every heart. They reach the oneself in all through boundless love. What a wonderful path. Boundless love. And that's what Savitri at one place reveals toward the end. What is the secret of Savitri's yoga? To feel love and oneness is to live. If there is no love, no oneness, there is no life. So here, through boundless love, everything they loved, but not with the ignorant human love. Ignorant human love wants to possess, appropriate, make it its own. The moment it sees something, the wish comes. Oh, I wish it was mine. It was near me. A good thing, it must be with me. But there is a love which can take delight without that spirit of appropriation. And that kind of love, boundless love, had woken up in these seers. Attuned to silence and to the world rhyme. Again, marvelous lines. Silence and speech are not two opposites, but they are two complementary. Speech fulfills and enriches the silence. Silence strengthens and pours itself into speech. But very often we make them as two opposites. But here, Sri Aurobindo, attuned to the silence and to the world rhyme. They loosened the knot of the imprisoning mind. All these concepts, percepts in which the mind is blocked. Achieved was the wide, untroubled witness gaze. So mind imprisons us in all kinds of concepts. God is this, God is that, He is like this, He is like that. This is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad, this is pleasant, this is painful. They had loosened that. So they had developed the wide, untroubled gaze. Even when they saw a great destruction, what did they see in it? The start of a new creation. So this is how they had achieved the wide, untroubled gaze, which in the Gita it is described as apuryamadam achalam pratishtham, untroubled gaze. Why? Because there is that equanimity. Unsealed was nature's great spiritual eye. To the height of heights rose now their daily climb. So they had yet not, they were climbing still from tire to tire, having arrived at that wide equanimity. Truth leaned to them from her supernal realm. Above them blazed eternity's mystic suns, the supramental truth. So the seven suns of the supermind, Sri Aurobindo passingly speaks of here as the eternal's mystic suns. So they have begun to draw closer and truth leans down. So what started happening to the mind? It began to change into an intuitive and illumined mind of the seer. So they would receive those lights and transmit it. And their heart had become boundless and they were not repulsed. In one of the essays, Sri Aurobindo says, early essays, it's very difficult to understand the actions of a yogin. He says, he may rejoice in the company of someone whom others shun as low, as bad, as ugly. He may shun the company of those whom others regard as holy. There is an aphorism of him also, that I went to a place full of holy men and got bored there, utterly bored. And God took me to a prison and there I found Him. So this idea that we have in our mind, all these concepts, they just go away because one begins to discover a different law. Close with just a little experience. Experience means everyday life. Just before coming, somebody came to me. I know he is a alcoholic, but all the time he'll be hovering around the ashram. And I had a series of experiences with him, which started with almost telling him to get out because he was drunk, and then I came to know that he has love for mother, and we united came together in that. And I said, I am so sorry because I didn't see that. He says, no, that's very nice, and then we are like friends. So he'll suddenly come inside, hold my hand and kiss and say some nice things. And then of course I feel very nice, and then I wash my hands, of course. That's precaution has to be taken. But he said something very nice today. He came and he did the same gesture and I said, so how are you? Anything smelling of alcohol? He said, no, I just came to see you and just to kiss your hand. And he goes away, and before going said, we are all mother's children, isn't it? And in her love we are one. I said, excellent. I felt actually all that thrill of mother's presence flow down. And I said, look at here, this man can give me such a nice experience simply because he has uttered something so beautiful. And otherwise, in the eyes of the world, he is obviously a crazy man. Nobody would like him. He's so nice. At one level, there is a space inside us in which we can all unite. And that's the beauty of yoga. So we'll stop here for 10 minutes and come back and continue.